So in today's lesson, we're going to be taking a look at a famous Jimi Hendrix solo. Comment below what solo it is when you hear it, and we're going to be extracting some of the key concepts and seeing how we can use them to improve our own solos in improvisation. So without further ado, let's jump right into the solo. Let's take a look at sort of the harmonic material that he uses and where it's coming from, and then we'll be able to figure out we can make some of our own licks that are similar. So first of all, we have this progression here. So over this first part, okay, the F to E flat to B flat to A flat, we want to talk about sort of where most of the material is coming from. So over this F to E flat chord, he's playing a lot of F major pentatonic. So this shape right here is where basically all of those licks are coming from over the F to E flat chord, okay? This is all of that is literally coming from like this little block of notes, actually. Really, not even the whole entire shape. He's mainly using this little block of notes here. So this C and this D and all this. And if you wanted to also, you can mess with doing similar things to this. Like you could say, well, what if I don't just play the C and the F and hammer onto the D? What if I go like hammer onto the G or something? You could go like that. Or even other stuff like... So it's just the idea of, hey, I know this shape there, and I can sort of pick and choose these little blocks of two notes, like here and here. These two notes and hammer onto this one, or these two notes and hammer onto this one here. Any of these types of things. And you can also even, this is not something directly that he plays, but you can slide up even both of these notes. You hear him play that kind of stuff all the time. So it's very interesting how he kind of breaks up these pentatonic scales. Even if you move this all the way down to here, like on the 5th and 4th string, this kind of thing. Right? So it's just that idea of, hey, I'm taking two notes and I'm hammering on one of them to another note, or even starting with two notes and pulling off one of them. Okay, so now here's the thing is that really, even though it's not totally spelled out, over the second half of that progression right here, this B flat and A flat chord, he's actually playing a lot of this type of thing, which would be actually B flat major pentatonic. So this would be basically the B flat major pentatonic scale that he's taking a lot of those licks from. Like when he plays this, it's really these notes right here, the C, D, and then this F and this G. That little box, that like little snippet actually of that B flat major pentatonic scale. And then later on, when he's playing over the B flat chord in the second half of the solo, this one, like towards the end where we just went over, he does a lot of using this 11th fret of the second string and these same exact notes, right? So And there's a part where he actually moves this up to E flat here, where, like I was mentioning earlier. And that part actually doesn't come from the B flat major pentatonic scale, but it actually does come from the B flat major scale, that type of thing. But so when he does this, all of that is literally just using these notes right here in this middle of this pattern. But if I'm playing over like the B flat chord, well, I could very easily use any of these notes. I could go. That all works over this chord. So the reason that it works, by the way, over the first part, where it's actually two different chords, he goes from B flat and A flat, is you could think of that part as actually like it would actually be like the key of E flat major, actually. So the only key that has two major chords that are right next to each other is actually going to be basically the 5 and the 4 chord in a key. So it's a lot to explain, but essentially, when in both of these sections here, the F and the E flat, this is like the 5 chord, and this is like the 4 chord, okay? Because in any major key, that's going to be the only place you're going to find two major chords that are right next to each other is in the 5 chord and the 4 chord, if you're familiar with the notes and chords that are in major keys. So whenever you see this, like two major chords that are right next to each other, you have to be thinking, okay, what key is this, the 5 chord and the 4 chord in? And that will kind of give you your answer as to what key it comes from. Now, with that being said, though, just because it's in the key of E flat doesn't mean you have to play, like, for example, E flat major scale or the E flat major pentatonic scale, because as you heard actually in my video last week, we talked about that there's actually 3 different pentatonic scales that you can find in any given key. And in the key of E flat major, well, guess what? B flat major pentatonic is actually one of the pentatonic scales they can find. So he definitely focuses more on that because it fits with the chord better. So that's the most important thing, is that whatever you're playing has to fit with the chord underneath. And it just so happens that actually you can play that B flat major pentatonic scale over the A flat chord as well. And there's nothing really that clashes in there. You have actually the major 7th, you have the 6th, you have the sharp 11, which is actually a very nice sounding note, and then you have the 3rd and you have the 9th. So with that being said, you can think, okay, if I have 2 major chords that are a whole step apart from each other, and maybe they're just going back and forth, I can just say, let me pick the major pentatonic of the first chord, and I will be able to play over that whole entire thing. So if you're playing another song where the progression's like, you could just play a bunch of B flat major pentatonic scale over it. So that's a concept that I want you all to take out of this, is whenever you see 2 major chords that are right next to each other, you can play the major pentatonic of the first one over both chords. That's obviously only one approach that you can take, but it is an approach that you can take over it. And then finally, let's just take a look at what he ends up playing later on over the G chord, okay? So if you remember our F major pentatonic scale that we had before, well, he just takes the same thing and he moves it up 2 frets. So here's our F major pentatonic scale we had before. We're going to take all those notes and we're just going to move them up 2 frets. And then bingo, now you have the G major pentatonic scale, which works really well over this G chord that appears later on in the solo. And that's why a lot of what he plays is using these shapes, but he's still actually, funny enough, playing the actual changes of the chord progression. It's not like, you know, a lot of us, we feel like, oh, we're just playing the exact same pentatonic scale over a whole entire solo. But by whatever mechanism, Jimi Hendrix was able to take some of these shapes and he was like able to use his ears and say, oh, let me actually move it to a new key to actually fit this chord progression. So literally just the same exact concept we were talking about before. He's using all these notes here that are on basically the 3rd, 2nd, and 1st strings, and then a little bit of this root note here too on the 17th fret of the 4th string. But he could have easily used any of those notes in that pattern. And using some of the techniques that he used earlier on that B flat major chord, he could have actually gone up to the C here, which is not in the major pentatonic scale. It's actually the 4th over that chord, but it sounds really cool when you kind of go back and forth and resolve that to the 3rd of the chord. So what are we gonna extract from this? So number 1, make sure that if you are playing major pentatonic or you're playing pentatonic over your chord progressions, make sure you actually don't just stay on the exact same one the whole entire time. Make sure that you actually understand the chord progression that's going on underneath so that you can actually change keys with the chord progression. And then on top of that, when you have your major pentatonic shapes, take advantage of this type of double stop idea where you are playing 2 notes and taking advantage of hammer-ons and pull-offs. And you will be able to incorporate a lot of this kind of stuff and get closer to that Jimi Hendrix type of sound in your guitar playing. So if you want to learn how to master the guitar fretboard so that you can learn how to take these concepts and apply them in any key, in any place on the fretboard, not just the places that we talked about in this solo, then make sure you head on over to jamsville.com right now and check out the Jamsville GPS Fretboard Fundamentals course. It's going to be the best course that you've ever taken if you're somebody who doesn't feel totally comfortable with all keys all over the fretboard yet. Also, you make sure you check out the Jamsville merch store where you can get yourself an awesome Jamsville t-shirt just like the one that I'm wearing here so that you can represent your Jamsville community out and about in the world. And it's a freaking awesome t-shirt. It fits great. It feels great. I love it and I wear it all the time. Also, make sure you check out my music. I just dropped a new song on Spotify very, very recently. It's called My Divine, and that's what you're hearing in the background right now. Make sure you check the link in the description down below so you can go listen to it on your favorite streaming platform. Also, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps the video to get out to as many people as possible. And until next time, listen, learn, and jam.